Story 1. I am a mythologist, a profession that has been passed down through generations. And my fascination with ancient tales has always kept me on edge. My dad used to share stories about fairies, cyclops, and giant wolves, but one subject he avoided discussing was giants. The mere mention of them would transform his cheerful demeanor into a cold, fearful one. One particular night, my father came home intoxicated, his breath reeking of whiskey. I noticed his eyes, almost black and filled with panic. Despite his state, he still told me unfamiliar stories before I went to sleep. I yearned for those times. During one of those nights, my father shared a tale about an ancient fairy garden that produced dreams. Intrigued, I brought up the topic of giants, but he abruptly turned off the lights and left my room, leaving behind an eerie sense of his unease. Years passed, and after completing college with a degree in mythology, I found myself surrounded by friends who pursued different paths. Some became archaeologists, while others moved on to different fields. One night, I received a frantic call from a friend named Troy, who urgently sought my help. He explained that they had unearthed something in Afghanistan, something that required identification. I questioned why they needed a mythologist, but Troy avoided the topic, promising to fly me out the next day. Despite the desolate location, I agreed, as the potential threats didn't concern me. Upon arriving in Afghanistan, the scorching sun greeted me, its intensity threatening to reduce me to ashes. Discomfort filled me as I made my way to the designated pickup spot. After enduring a few hours of treacherous heat and sandy roads, we finally reached a vast dig site. Scientists, journalists, and, strangely, armed guards occupied the area. Troy warmly greeted me with a tight hug and beckoned me to follow him. We entered one of the research tents, where old illustrations, books, and various artifacts caught my attention. Among them was a bottle sealed with wax, containing a rolled up piece of paper. Troy noticed my fascination and explained its significance. We found this at the site. It could be a codex or a key to dating the findings. If we can decipher its contents, it may revolutionize our understanding of this place. We could finally answer the questions that have intrigued us for so long. Curiosity piqued, I asked, "But why do you need me then?" A lump formed in Troy's throat, and he silently walked away, with me trailing behind. When we reached the main attraction, I couldn't believe my eyes. Standing in a large rectangular pit was a colossal skeleton, at least 12 feet tall and nearly 5 feet wide. At first, I questioned if it was a joke or an animal, until I noticed the unmistakable blue oxidized copper spear and massive iron brace accompanying the skeleton. Memories of my father's aversion to giants flooded my mind. As a mythologist, I had treated such tales as cultural studies rather than literal possibilities. However, as I scrutinized the unearthed skeleton, darkness descended, and it was already 11 p.m. We retired for the night, and my mind wrestled with the question, could this be evidence of giants? Awakening to the sound of frantic chatter and the loading of guns, I leaped out of bed, rushing to find the skeleton missing. More distressingly, Troy was nowhere to be seen. Overhearing conversations, I joined a crowd that gathered near massive drag marks and footprints, each around 4 feet in length. The trail led to a valley of mounds, and we decided to follow it, suspecting that Troy had absconded with the skeleton to sell it. Inside Troy's tent, chaos reigned. It appeared as though he had hastily rummaged through his belongings, as if fleeing from an imminent threat. The bottle containing the mysterious message was also missing. Filled with a mix of fear and determination, I joined the group in pursuit of Troy. The trail led us up a ramp-like slope, ascending to the summits of the towering mounds, which ranged from 100 to 500 meters in height. Finally, we arrived at the entrance of a cavern. Without hesitation, the group ventured inside, and driven by a sense of urgency, I followed suit. Upon entering, an overwhelming stench assaulted my senses. The air was rancid, as if permeated by death itself. Darkness enveloped the cave, and though I carried a torch, I couldn't shake the feeling of helplessness. Losing my way in the labyrinthine passages would mean a slow demise, trapped by the unyielding embrace of rocky walls. Summoning courage, I ignited the torch, casting light into the chamber. I hurried to catch up with the group, their voices echoing through the cavern. Suddenly, I stumbled over a loose rock, causing it to ricochet off the wall with a resounding clang. In that moment, a chilling sound filled the air. From deep within the cave, heavy footsteps reverberated, drawing closer to the group. At first, we assumed it was a wild animal and swiftly retreated. Yet, the subsequent sound of panic, screams, and then eerie silence sent shivers down our spines. It was as if a predator had descended upon its prey, feasting in the darkness. A sense of dread settled over us. One of the armed guards swiftly loaded his rifle, anticipating the approaching threat. Gradually, a colossal figure materialized from the shadows, a human form of immense proportions, towering at least 15 feet tall. I beheld its terrifying appearance, etching the details into my memory like a haunting message. Its pallid, ashen gray skin was stretched tightly over its features. Deep-set, abyssal eyes stared out from sunken sockets, its nose partly severed, and its face marred by horrific scars. But it was the creature's mouth that left the most lasting impression, a twisted grin revealing rows upon rows of razor-sharp teeth stained with fresh blood. It exuded an aura of primal savagery. a supernatural being that defied all notions of existence. Adorned with bone fragments and tattered rags, the creature donned the body of the extracted giant as a macabre trophy. However, what chilled me to the core were the twine ropes hanging from its form, displaying severed body parts as grisly trophies, Troy's body parts. As the guards opened fire, the beast emitted a deep, guttural roar reminiscent of screeching metal. I watched in horror as it effortlessly squeezed one of the guards, reducing him to a crimson paste that oozed from its massive knuckles. In that moment of chaos, an instinctual drive overcame me. Darting between the creature's towering legs, I plunged deeper into its lair. I ran until I stumbled upon a small cavern, where a pile of dead grass, sticks, and other debris lay scattered. I couldn't comprehend how grass had found its way into this desolate Afghan landscape, but the detail became inconsequential. I approached the pile and noticed the message, the note my father had left. It was a whiskey bottle, shattered in haste, its smeared ink conveying his hurried words. It began to make sense. My father's true purpose had been here, not in Ireland. He knew of the giant's existence. As gunshots continued to echo outside, accompanied by fading screams, I frantically pieced together the message. It contained instructions, fragments of an ancient incantation passed down from generation to generation in my family. It spoke of a ritual, a means to commune with the giants and plead for their mercy. Reciting the words in hushed tones, I grasped a sliver of hope that this ancient knowledge might offer salvation. Suddenly, the chamber trembled, and the beast's roar resonated through the caverns. Desperation filled me as I wondered if my incantation had alerted it to my presence. But to my astonishment, the creature's footsteps grew fainter, eventually fading into silence. Emerging from the cavern, I found myself alone, surrounded by the eerie aftermath. The guards lay motionless, their weapons scattered across the cave floor. The creature had vanished, leaving behind only a lingering sense of foreboding. Gathering my thoughts, I resolved to find my father and uncover the truth behind his involvement with the giants. What had led him to Afghanistan, and what secrets did he uncover about these ancient beings? The path before me was treacherous, but armed with knowledge and a newfound sense of purpose, I embarked on a journey that would forever alter my perception of the world and the realms of myth. Story 2. During the autumn season, Mel made it a tradition to visit his family's vacation house by the tranquil lake. Nestled in a serene community inhabited mostly by retirees, the house offered a respite from the chaos of daily life. As the sun began to rise over the tree line, Mel arrived at the house after a late-night drive to avoid traffic. He parked the car in the driveway and turned off the engine. Stretching his legs and savoring the crisp morning air, Mel stepped out of the car and made his way to the trunk. He opened it and began the process of gathering his bags, intending to bring them inside. A note caught his attention on the kitchen counter, left behind by his parents. Curiosity piqued, Mel walked over to read its contents. The note mentioned that the pantry and fridge had been restocked and instructed him to use the generator in the basement if the power went out. However, what perplexed Mel was a scribbled warning at the bottom left by his sibling. Whatever it says and no matter what it does, do not let it in. Was this some sort of Halloween prank? It wasn't uncommon for his family to play tricks on each other during this time of year. Mel shrugged it off for now and proceeded to unpack his belongings. By the time he finished, he felt hungry and decided to prepare himself a meal. As he sat down to eat, Mel's gaze wandered, and out of the corner of his eye, he thought he saw something move outside. Perhaps it was just an animal. The neighbors had pets, and the area was known for its wildlife, including there his father often photographed for the local travel magazine. But this movement seemed different, more eerie and less animal-like. After finishing his lunch and tidying up, Mel carried his dishes to the kitchen. As he rinsed them off and placed them in the dishwasher, he yawned and glanced at the grandfather clock. Should he take a leisurely walk or succumb to a nap? Considering the unsettling presence lurking outside, Mel thought it best to stay indoors. On his way through the house, he meticulously checked the windows, closing the curtains, securing the doors, and lowering the shades of the sliding glass door. Stepping back from the door, Mel could have sworn he heard a faint tapping against the glass. Dismissing it as the shade swaying from being closed, he proceeded to the bedroom. Before long, sleep overcame him. When he finally awoke, the sun had descended significantly, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. Rising from the bed, Mel reached over to switch on the lamp on his bedside table. Rubbing the sleep from his eyes, he stood up and made his way to the living room, guided by the soft illumination of the automatic plug-in lights. But halfway there, he froze. A silhouette stood outside the sliding glass door, the faint light outlining its presence. Mel felt a wave of relief for having closed the blinds. Inhaling deeply, he took a slow step back, only to witness the figure's head jerk abruptly in his direction. "I can hear you in there. Won't you let me in?" A voice called out from beyond the glass. Mel remained silent, refusing to respond. "I know you're in there. Why won't you speak to me?" The voice grew more desperate. Scratching sounds reverberated against the glass, as if the figure were attempting to force its way inside. Should he call the police? But what could they possibly do? In a crescendo of escalating intensity, it banged against the sliding glass door, causing the entire structure to rattle and shake. "Let me in. Let me in." Let me in. Retreating to the safety of the master bedroom, Mel's heart pounded in his chest. He crawled under the bed, clutching his cell phone tightly, and dialed 911, praying for someone to answer. As he waited anxiously, the sound of shattering glass pierced the air, causing him to startle and lose his grip on the phone. It slipped from his trembling hand and bounced away, sliding out of reach. Mel watched helplessly as the footsteps of the intruder drew closer, the slow, dragging sound growing louder with each passing moment. His mind raced with fear and uncertainty. What had he stumbled upon? Was this some sick Halloween prank taken to a horrifying extreme? Finally, a voice crackled from his phone, a man on the other end of the line asking, "Hello, 911. What is your emergency?" Mel attempted to speak, but his words caught in his throat. He mustered all his courage and managed to stammer, "There's someone trying to break into my house." The man's voice responded, slightly annoyed, "Look, we get prank calls like this every year around Halloween. Are you sure it's not just a joke?" Mel's heart sank. How could he make them understand the gravity of the situation? As he struggled to find the right words, the intruder's footsteps grew louder, drawing nearer to the master bedroom. The creaking of the bed sent shivers down Mel's spine, as if something were crawling across it. With bated breath, Mel held perfectly still, his body trembling with fear. The side of the comforter slowly lifted, revealing long strands of dark, tangled hair. The intruder's face emerged, twisted and contorted into a menacing, upturned smile. "Why wouldn't you let me in?" It hissed angrily, its voice dripping with malice. Overwhelmed by terror, Mel let out a piercing scream, succumbing to the overwhelming shock. Darkness swallowed him as he fainted, unaware of how much time had passed. When he finally regained consciousness, he found himself lying on the floor, his sister Wynne calling out for him. Opening his eyes, Mel realized that daylight had returned, casting a comforting glow into the room. At the presence that tormented him during the night vanished. Cautiously crawling out from under the bed, Mel made his way to the living room, where Wynne was diligently cleaning up the shattered glass scattered across the carpet. She glanced at him over her shoulder, relief washing over her face. "There you are, Mel. I've been trying to reach you on your cell phone, but you didn't answer." What happened? Mel's mind raced as he debated whether to tell his sister about the nightmarish encounter. He knew Wynne well enough to anticipate her reaction. She would likely dismiss it as another Halloween prank. However, the threat he had faced was real, and he had survived only by sheer luck. Summoning his courage, Mel approached Wynne and said, "Wynne, about the warning you left on the counter. I think there was something out there last night. Something evil." Wynne's expression shifted, her brow furrowing in confusion. "Oh, that. When I was here a few weeks ago, I thought I saw something." She trailed off, shaking her head dismissively. "But what happened to the door? Did someone break in?" Mel hesitated for a moment, weighing his options. He knew he couldn't convince Wynne without solid evidence. Instead, he simply replied, "Never mind the door. Just be careful, Wynne. Whatever it was, it's gone now, but next time, we might not be so lucky." A somber silence fell between them as they exchanged glances filled with unspoken understanding. Mel realized that sometimes the most horrifying experiences were the ones that could not be easily explained or understood. With a newfound sense of caution, they resolved to remain vigilant, knowing that the threat might return one day. In the weeks that followed, Mel and Wynne continued their lives, haunted by the memory of that fateful night. They tried to convince themselves that it was all a figment of their imagination, a shared hallucination brought on by the eerie atmosphere of Halloween. Yet, a lingering unease persisted in the back of their minds. As time passed, Mel became determined to uncover the truth. He delved into research, scouring books, articles, and local folklore, searching for any clue that might shed light on the enigmatic entity that had invaded their lives. He discovered tales of ancient spirits, vengeful apparitions, and restless souls seeking entry into the mortal realm. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Mel sought the help of a seasoned paranormal investigator. Together, they embarked on a quest to uncover the secrets hidden within the depths of the lake and the surrounding woods. Nights were spent conducting vigils, setting up cameras and recording equipment in hopes of capturing evidence of the otherworldly presence that had haunted them. During their investigations, Mel and the investigator discovered unsettling stories from the townsfolk. Whispers of a long-forgotten tragedy involving a mysterious figure lurking in the darkness of the lake, preying on unsuspecting souls. It was said that the spirit had the ability to mimic voices, deceiving its victims into granting it entry. The more they dug, the clearer the pieces of the puzzle became. A vacation house, once a place of solace, had unwittingly become a focal point for the spirit's malevolent intentions. It seemed that Mel's family had unknowingly awakened the entity, setting off a chain of events that would forever change their lives. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Mel and the investigator devised a plan to confront the spirit head-on. They gathered ancient relics, protective talismans, and sacred rituals passed down through generations, hoping to banish the evil presence once and for all. The night of the confrontation arrived, and the air crackled with anticipation. Under the pale moonlight, Mel and the investigator stood at the edge of the lake, reciting incantations that echoed through the silent night. The water's surface trembled, and a thick mist swirled around them. Shadows danced, and whispers filled the air, as if the spirit itself was resisting its impending expulsion. With each word spoken, the supernatural energy intensified. Suddenly, a figure materialized from the mist, taking shape before them. It was the same twisted, contorted face that had haunted Mel's dreams. But this time, Mel stood his ground, his resolve unyielding. He looked into the spirit's eyes and spoke with unwavering determination. "You shall not pass. You have no power here." The spirit let out a blood-curdling scream, writhing in agony as the protective rituals took effect. It fought desperately, its voice reverberating through the night. But gradually, its form began to dissolve, fading into the darkness from whence it came. Mel and the investigator stood in awe and relief as the malevolent presence dissipated. The air grew still, and a newfound peace settled upon the once troubled grounds of the vacation house. From that day forward, the house by the lake remained undisturbed. Lel and Win, forever changed by their harrowing encounter, carried the weight of their experiences but also a newfound strength. They had confronted the darkness and emerged victorious, forever bound by the unbreakable bond of shared fear and resilience. As the years passed, Mel and Win became beacons of hope and guidance for others who found themselves ensnared in the clutches of the supernatural. They dedicated their lives to researching and helping those afflicted by paranormal phenomena, ensuring that no one would suffer the same terror they had endured. Their story became a cautionary tale, whispered among the inhabitants of the peaceful community by the lake. And while the evil entity that had once plagued their lives was banished, its memory served as a reminder that darkness lurks in even the most tranquil corners of the world. But Mel and Win, armed with their unwavering courage, would forever stand as guardians, protecting others from the terrors that lie beyond the veil. And though their hearts still skipped a beat every Halloween, they faced the night with a newfound strength, knowing that the real horrors were not confined to the realm of make-believe. Story 3. A night my brother's bachelor party turned into a nightmare was etched in my memory. After a few drinks, I took a cab home, settling on my couch, mindlessly flipping through late-night TV. As boredom set in, I prepared to sleep. Then, a violent pounding on my door shattered the silence, jolting me awake. Fear gripped me as I cautiously approached the door, peering through the eye-hole. A hunched figure stood in the corner of my driveway, a sinister silhouette against the darkness. Terrified, I hesitated, contemplating whether to call the police or dismiss it as my imagination. But as I turned on the porch light, the man started advancing towards me. He was tall, around 6'3" or 6'4", with a medium build and torn clothes. Yet, his bloodshot eyes, ready to burst from their sockets, chilled me to the bone. "Please let me in," he pleaded, seconds away from dialing emergency services. His next words froze me in my tracks. "I'm going to kill you." The calmness with which he spoke sent shivers down my spine. "What do you want?" I stammered. "Open the door," he replied. Confusion overwhelmed me, leaving me speechless. For a minute, we locked eyes, and then he sprinted towards my backyard. Panic engulfed me as I raced to my room, clutching my phone and gun. Locking myself upstairs, I dialed 911 repeatedly, desperate for help. Finally, someone answered amidst my frantic screams. "Please help me, he's gonna kill me," I pleaded. Silence followed, and just as I was about to hang up, I heard a chilling response. "You can't hide from me." The line went dead. Determined to protect myself, I resolved to stay awake all night, bracing for the intruder's potential entry. Irresponsibly, I succumbed to sleep, awakening with the hope that it was all a lucid nightmare. Disoriented, I headed downstairs for breakfast. As I approached the kitchen, I froze. The man from the previous night stood outside my window, his face and clothes smeared with blood. Fear consumed me, paralyzing me for hours as I watched him. Eventually, I decided to confront him. Taking my gun, I stepped outside, immediately overwhelmed by his putrid stench. I pointed the weapon, warning him to leave, but he only smiled, unaffected. Trying to pull the trigger, an inexplicable force held me back. My hand turned, the gun now aimed at my own face. A click echoed, and I realized I had forgotten to load the bullets, offering temporary relief. Yet, relief turned to horror as the man attacked me, striking me with his own gun. I lost consciousness swiftly. When I awoke in the middle of the night, I was surprised that he hadn't killed me. But as I reached for the door handle, I discovered my right hand devoid of fingers. Overwhelmed by despair, I opened the door, stepping into the pitch-black living room. Flicking on the light, I found the man standing in the center. I collapsed, surrendering to my fate as he drew closer. His breath, foul and putrid, assaulted my senses. I mustered a punch, but he remained unfazed, maintaining his piercing stare. Minutes passed as we locked eyes, and then a noise came from the kitchen. I turned to witness a rotten leg covered in maggots. When I looked back, the man had vanished. Racing to escape, I approached the front door, but it was locked, the keyhole vanished. My only option was to make my way upstairs to retrieve a baseball bat from my room. Each step I took towards the top of the stairs seemed to amplify the man's sinister laughter, echoing through the hallway. With trembling legs, I moved backward, my eyes fixed on his silhouette at the end of the corridor. Slowly, I retreated into my room, slamming the door shut and locking it, desperately hoping it would provide a momentary sanctuary. My mind raced as I contemplated my next move. The window seemed like my only escape route. I mustered the courage to leap out, leaving behind the perceived safety of my house. I sprinted towards the nearest convenience store, my heart pounding in my chest. The man pursued me relentlessly, closing the distance between us with alarming speed. I could almost taste the relief as I approached the store, mere feet away from potential safety. But fate had other plans. In a swift and brutal move, he tackled me to the ground, his grip unyielding. His merciless assault commenced as he repeatedly slammed my head against the unforgiving concrete floor. Momentarily releasing his grip, I thought the torment had ceased, only to have my worst nightmare come true. He tore off my entire leg effortlessly, a horrifying display of his inhuman strength. Leaving me broken and in excruciating pain, he retreated into the darkness, leaving me gasping for breath. Crawling, I summoned every ounce of strength to reach the convenience store's entrance. The blinding fluorescent lights enveloped me as I stumbled inside. A cacophony of terrified screams pierced my ears, a chilling soundtrack to my wretched existence. Time passed in a haze of agony as I drifted in and out of consciousness. When I finally awakened, I found myself confined to a hospital bed, a myriad of injuries and pain serving as a grim reminder of the horrors I had endured. A nurse approached, offering solace amidst the chaos, gently inquiring about my well-being. Overwhelmed, I relented, sharing fragments of the nightmarish encounter that had forever altered my life. As days turned into weeks, and my wounds began to heal, a profound sense of unease settled within me. I couldn't shake the feeling that the man's presence still lingered, his malevolence poised to strike once more. Each passing night brought restless sleep and vivid nightmares, forcing me to question my sanity and the tenuous grip I had on reality. Haunted by the memories, I felt compelled to recount my harrowing tale, sharing it with anyone who would listen. Writing became my catharsis, a feeble attempt to exorcise the demons that tormented me. But deep down, I knew that this would not be the last time my voice would carry the weight of these horrors. So here I am, a survivor marked by an encounter with pure evil. My words serve as a testament to the inexplicable terrors that exist in the shadows, reminding us that sometimes the line between reality and nightmares blurs, and the darkness lurking within the human soul can manifest in the most terrifying ways. And as long as this story remains etched in my mind, a constant reminder of the horror I endured, it will echo through time, a chilling warning to those who dare delve into the realm of the unknown.